What is up, guys? So I've got a Burning Abyss deck profile for you here today. This one is more of a control variant. This is kind of similar to the builds we used to see before, where you just kind of spam all the traps and stuff with Burning Abyss, but basically having Graff and Cir to 2 means you can take more advantage of the Burning Abyss engine. So it's a pure Burning Abyss with a kind of a control element. It's just a really good deck. The amount of grind Burning Abyss has is insane, and it really synergizes well with these two cards, in my opinion, Dark Sacrifice and Fiend Griefing, which gives you a huge amount of versatility. This card as well, Ice Dragon Prison, but I'll go into all the cards. But anyway, I'll go into the deck profile right now. So we're going to start off with some pretty standard Burn Abyss ratio. So I like the 1 Bar. Bar is a really good monster, just because his burn ability is unique enough that it can win you the game sometimes. I mean, just the ability to quickly burn your opponent for 900 if you haven't been able to do enough damage to them, or to beat them in time, even though I know we're not likely to have any proper tournaments for a while. But still, it's just a really good card, and I do like him at minimum at least once. And he's another Burning Abyss name, of course. We've got the 2 Cir, amazing monster, special summoning your Burning Abysses from the graveyard. Really good monster, happy to have him back too, and it really does increase the consistency of the deck to have him, because if you draw your Cir or Graff, it's not the end of the game for you like it was before, which is really nice. You've got the 2 Fiendish Rhino Warriors. I play him at 2 just because he's not as important anymore. Before, I might have played him at 3 just because of the lack of ability to get to Cir and Graff and stuff, but now just having those 2 and having Tour Guide at 3 really means that this card isn't as good as it was before. Sometimes I might even drop him down to 1 just because he's just nowhere near as important for Burning Abyss as he was before, but it's still a really good card, so we'll play him at 2. We've got the 2 Libich as well, being able to special summon a Fiend from your hand, because you're very often going to have a level 3 Fiend in your hand. It's nice that he negates it as well. So Libich, really good monster. So he kind of is like the weaker loop part of the Cir Graff, whatever, but he is still a really good card. You've got the 1 Alich. Alich is a good card. I like him just because his ability to negate a face-up card. It's a unique kind of instruction, and a lot of people won't expect it. People only really think about Farfa and Burn Abyss, but they also have Alich, which is a unique interruption. So I do like having the 1 copy of him. We've got the 2 Farfa. Farfa's a really good card. Obviously, being able to banish a card, I wish it wasn't until the end phase, but still, that effect is just great, and it can just end your opponent's turn a lot of the time, because you just get rid of the material, and even though they get it back in the end phase, they just can't do anything. They summon a Verte, you banish it, or no Dragoon for them. So really good card having him at 2. Then we've got the Graff at 2 as well, same reason as Cir, really good card, such summoning your Burn Abyss deck, not much to say about that. And the 3 Tour Guide, your main starting deck. Tour Guide is such an awesome starter for Burning Abyss. Really good card, and we definitely want to see her in every single hand we have. She's also nice to search off that 1 copy of Scum we have. That's what I think makes this deck even better, the fact that you can dump that Scum and ensure that your next turn is going to be strong as well. It's really problematic for your opponent. Then we play 2 Absolute King Backjack, really good card, easy to dump in the grave, where either your Rhinos or your Dark Sacrifice or your Fiend Griefing. And he's going to give you a free trap, or he's going to give you a free mill, both of which you love in Burn Abyss. I do think he is worth playing in this variant as well. Then we've got the 2 Veiler. This is really just for countering those Vertes. We can't let those Vertes go through. It's also nice for stopping the Ecclesia for Dogmatica builds as well. And the 3 Forbidden Droplet for the same reason. This card is amazing for Burn Abyss, because you don't care a lot of the time if your cards are in the graveyard. You want them to be there, and it's just nice. You've always got materials to send, and they obviously going to be nerfing your negating the Dragoon and stuff like that. Then we've got the 3 Imperm. Again, trap focus deck, really good card, great going first, going second, counters so many cards and just stops people's turns. I mean, I love the idea behind this deck is to continue forcing those 1-for-1 trades. So I love having all of these kind of hand traps that's like a 1-for-1 trade, 1-for-1 trade, but you know that you're going to plus next turn, so you don't mind taking those 1-for-1 trades, which is really nice to have that infinite impermanence. So we've got 2 Ice Dragon's Prison. This card is incredibly busted, and the amount of games it has cost me when I'm going against it made me think, no, this card definitely needs to be in the deck. So in case you guys don't know, you target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your field, its effects are negated, then you can banish a monster from both monsters' fields that have the same type as each other. Now the reason why this is good is because it outs Dragoon firstly, really nicely, because they're going to dump a Dark Magician to their graveyard, which can be special summoned, and then you can banish it because it doesn't target. And also it just puts a monster on your board, so it stops you from getting OTK'd a lot of the time. So it's just a really good card. You really like this card, and it's live against most decks. There's very few decks that aren't going to put at least 1 monster in the graveyard, and there's a lot of monotype decks like Dogmatica and stuff, which makes it even better, because you can summon one of their monsters, then banish both of your fields. This is really good also in the counter Burn Abyss matchup as well, because you can banish one monster from both players' fields that have the same type as each other, so you can banish a card off your field to get rid of their field, which is really good. Then we've got the Dynamiscus, really good card. banishing card of field. You've got a lot of banish power in this deck, which is obviously going to be good because you can dodge destruction, protection, damage. This in general is a nice card to have. The 3 Fiend Grief in this card is insane. The amount of decks it hard counters is just so good. Things like spinning an Eldritch back to the graveyard so they can't use again, stuff like that. It's just really, really nice to have. And I don't think I'm ever upset to have this, because then it also mills a card for you as well. So it's like, it's basically Foolish Burial, but then it also does something else as well, which is great. So yeah, this is a really good card, and I don't see myself not playing it at 3, at least 2 in most Burn Abyss variants, but 3 in this one. Definitely, it's just such a good card. Then we've got the 2 Lost Wind, lovely trap to have. There was another one that's quite similar to this, but the reason why I prefer Lost Wind, even though that one reduces it to 0, this is nice because it targets one. It is any special summon monster. That one I think it's just monster summoned from the extra deck, and so this comes in more useful most of the time. I also like the fact that Lost Wind recycles itself, just in general, good effect to have. Then we've got the 2 Dark Sacrifice. This is a really good card. I play it in Paleozoics, and I thought, why don't I play it in Burn Abyss as well? It does the same thing. You can send any Burn Abyss to the grave, and there's so many things. Even one of the really good examples is Dragoon's Destroy and Burn effect. This negates that because it destroys the card. So it's like you can negate that, and then like I said, it's lovely to be able to dump a free monster from your deck to the graveyard. So you could dump a Farfa and now banish a card when they try and do that to you, which is really good. Or you can dump a Backjack and then get a free trap. Little things like that are amazing, which is why we play the 2 Dark Sacrifice. And then 3 Trap Trick. This is the only one I will admit that I'm not 100% sure about. Sometimes it's amazing, sometimes it's not. The versatility is great because it means that I basically have access to any trap in my deck, but sometimes I'm really upset to see the copies of Trap Trick. So that one's the only one I'd say I'm not sure about, but it is a good card. It's just not always perfect. But you could switch this one out card, for example. You could just switch this out for 3 Solemns or something instead. I tend to not actually play Solemns, especially in game 1, just because they're not that useful in game 1. It doesn't really make much of a difference. And also because of Dragoon, I just don't want to use half of my life points because then I just get burned and gamed. But yeah, anyway, this could potentially be replaced. But then moving into the extra deck, so it's a pretty standard extra deck. So we're going to be starting obviously with our Cherubini, 1 copy of Cherubini. I don't actually go into this that often. It is a good monster, but it's only with the main tour guide combo that I go into Cherubini. Otherwise, it's just not worth it. I'd rather just end on a Dante and an IP and stuff like that. It's just not as amazing as it was before, but it's still a very good monster. Got the 1 IP Masquerena, which is amazing to link into our Nightmares on our opponent's turn, or to go into an Appaloosa and things like that on our opponent's turn. 1 Security Dragon, really, really good monster. I like this just because its ability to bounce a card that your opponent controls is just insane. Your opponent has to negate this if they see this happen, and it's just so unique as well. People don't expect it. Like, you can use your Dynamiscus traps, for example, for it, which is great. So yeah, really, really good monster. It's underrated. I don't see it played as much. Got the 1 Hauka Firebrax just for the Hauka Firebrax combo. That's another reason why I play Feck Vela. Got our Nightmares. Then we've got Appaloosa, Access Code, and Boral Sword as our link 4s. I went for Boral Sword over Avramax. I've really started to like Boral Sword lately just because it outs a lot of high attack monsters really, really easy. Avramax does out them as well, but Boral Sword outs them and wins the game, whereas Avramax won't win the game a lot of the time. It'll just be over them, and then next turn, every deck has like a +10 combo, so I'd rather just end the game as soon as possible. Even though this is a grind deck, I like the ability of Boral Sword to just end the games instantly, which is why I definitely prefer the Boral Sword over the Avramax. And then Access Code for obvious reasons. Got the 2 Dante. You only really need 2, especially now that you have 2 Cir. You only need 2 Dante in my opinion, so really easy to get that Cir Dante loop going, which is really good. You've got the 1 Beatrice, Lady of the Eternal, amazing monster to end on, very good interruption to give you your Farf or anything that you might need during your opponent's turn. And then we've got the 1 Dante, Pilgrim of the Burning Abyss. This is really just a target for Beatrice. You don't have to play this. I like him personally. I think he's got a pretty nice effect to extend on your own turn, but you can replace him with another extra deck monster if you want. This deck is quite flexible in terms of what you put in the extra deck. Then moving on for our side deck, so I've got the 1 Red Reboot, 3 Evenly, 1 Harpy's Feather Dust, and this is kind of my back row package to deal with back row. I really like Red Reboot at the moment, even though it does take a lot of LP. I think it's particularly important because there are a lot of decks that can just end your game completely with things like Shadow Schism, and then it's like you can't special summon because they've got a Winder, or you've got a Dogmatic Ascending and then getting 2 pops. It's just too risky in my opinion to allow hand traps to run out, so I do like the 1 Red Reboot. We've got the 3 Evenly Matched and the 1 Feather Dust because it's busted, 3 Lightning Storm generic in every matchup, then 3 Nibiru and 3 Phantasme. if they're not the decks, if there's a deck that's not dealt with by these cards, there's a deck that's definitely dealt with by these cards and the Pancrops as well. These are all amazing to draw going second, and they're all good beat sticks as well, which is another thing. This deck occasionally does have a bit of trouble putting a lot of damage on board, and it's nice just to get 3 beat sticks with Nibiru, Phantasme, and Pancrotop. So I really like these cards as well. So guys, that is my Burning Abyss deck profile. Don't worry, I've got plenty more coming through. I've made a lot of Burning Abyss builds, so I'm definitely going to be releasing quite a few this week. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you all soon. Peace.